May 2012, the DEA's Elite Special Operations Unit, once known as one of the highest trained teams in law enforcement, found itself on front-page news after a drug bust in Latin America turned fatal. This is the story of the rise and fall of DEA FAST and the operation that brought the unit to its knees. In 1987, in an attempt to counter the growing export of narcotics from cocaine labs deep in the Latin American jungles, the United States Drug Enforcement Administration drew up a plan that involved close military and law enforcement cooperation between the United States and 9 Latin American countries. The DEA also committed 140 of its agents to participate in what is now known as Operation Snowcap. The unique and unprecedented plan saw the agents receive training from the United States military in elements such as jungle warfare and small unit tactics. These agents were then deployed alongside partner forces and began to disrupt the production and exportation of cocaine to the U.S. This close cooperation continued on for years and even began to see U.S. military personnel from 7th Special Forces Group and Navy SEALs join the agents on operations in the jungle. Sadly, however, in 1994, a DEA Casa 212 light transport aircraft crashed while conducting reconnaissance in Peru. The plane's 5 occupants, DEA Special Agents Frank S. Wallace, J.W. Seal, Juan C. Vars, Meredith Thompson, and Frank Fernandez Jr. were all killed as a result. This crash, along with a reduction in funding and a new strategy by the Clinton administration, saw the disbandment of Operation Snowcap, and with it the DEA's remaining agents were all returned to normal duties. 2005 saw the introduction of FAST to the battlefield. The DEA was tasked with setting up a new and agile force that would be capable of accompanying U.S. Special Operations personnel on high-risk missions in Afghanistan. Their primary mission was to collect evidence on raids and build criminal cases against terror groups using opium and heroin to fund its activities. Richard Dobrich, a former Navy SEAL, was chosen to head up the project and help design the training and structure of the team. This included an 18-week training course that included CQB, reconnaissance, IED detection, and anti-hijack driving. While the team was predominantly designed for operations in Afghanistan, the next decade would see them go on to conduct operations all across the globe from south of the border to the continent of Africa. In 2009, FAST was involved in the high-profile takedown of Haji Bakjo, a drug trafficker with ties to the Taliban. The DEA used this success to jockey for more funding from Congress, which was eventually approved and helped the unit continue to expand its capabilities. 2012 wound up being the nail in the coffin for FAST after a number of highly controversial shootings took place in Honduras. At the beginning of the year, members of the unit were sent to train local counter-narco teams and would eventually go on to accompany them on operations designed to disrupt drug trafficking routes along Honduran rivers. In May, during the takedown of a narco boat, one operator opened fire after an individual on board reportedly made an attempt to draw a weapon. Whilst the details are largely debated, they went on to make 4 arrests and seize 360 kilos of cocaine, thus leading the U.S. Embassy to declare the operation a success. This, however, was just the beginning of controversy for the DEA. Less than a month later, at 0120 hours, a reconnaissance aircraft from the Department of Homeland Security witnessed a plane carrying 450 kilos of cocaine with an estimated street value of $10 million land at a remote makeshift runway in a Honduran field. Groups of local narcos began loading the drugs onto trucks before moving them to the banks of a nearby river where small boats were waiting. As the drugs were being loaded onto one of the boats, helicopters carrying both DEA FAST operators and local Honduran police make their descent towards the river. In a panic, many of the narcos make a run for it. However, a few stay behind in order to cast off the drug-filled boat in a bid to stop the task force from recovering it before they run off. One of the DEA helicopters uses the downwash from the rotors to push the boat towards one of the banks where operators who had fast roped onto the ground were now waiting. One of the FAST team members, along with 2 Honduran officers, then boarded the vessel in an attempt to drive the boat back to the loading area in order to seize the product on board. Unfortunately, the small outboard motor on the back of the boat was proving difficult to start up. As a result, the men began drifting downstream. It was at this time that a second boat begins heading towards them in an apparent attempt to recover the drugs. The driver of the second boat, which later turned out to be a water taxi, stated afterwards that he was scared by the helicopters in the sky and never intended to steer towards the agent's boat. As the two boats make contact, the fast operator along with the Honduran policeman opened fire on the water taxi, later stating that they thought they were under attack. Simultaneously, a Honduran door gunner on board one of the helicopters above opened fire on the civilian vessel. As a result, 4 people on board were killed and 3 more injured. Since the 2012 shooting, the DEA has been accused of covering up multiple aspects of its operations in Honduras. And in 2015, after a decade of operating around the globe, the DEA, perhaps anticipating congressional backlash, made the decision to formally disband the unit until the next war requires such a team once again. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment down below what you want to see next.